She stood there, arms crossed, sunglasses on like she owned the sun. You need to vacate now. This is Lake Ranch HOA property, and we don't allow outsiders running businesses here. Her voice was sharp enough to cut steel. I looked at her from behind my desk, set upright. Inside my new mobile office parked on the land I owned. My wife was finishing the last touches on the layout inside, excited to finally start our little marketing agency away from the noise of the city. But Karen wasn't having it. I've already called 911, she snapped, holding up her phone like it was a weapon. You're trespassing, and if you don't shut this thing down, they'll drag you out in cuffs. I didn't even flinch. Ma'am, I said calmly, this land is legally mine. I have all the papers. But she wasn't listening. She kept pacing in front of the lot like she was guarding the Queen's castle. Neighbors started coming out. Some whispering, some filming. One even asked if I needed help. But Karen, she just waved them off. He's illegally running a commercial operation in our residential zone. I know my rights. That's when the first twist hit. She slapped a bright orange paper on my trailer door, completely fake, printed with a dollar store logo of Lake Ranch Enforcement Unit. It looked like a child made it in word art. You've been cited, she announced, as if she was Judge Judy. You have 24 hours before we tow this junk. I stared at the paper, and then I smiled, not because I was scared, but because I knew something Karen didn't. Just then the police cruiser pulled in. 2 real officers stepped out. Karen ran to them like she just found backup. Officers, arrest him immediately. He's defying HOA law and— Ma'am, the taller cop interrupted her, already annoyed. HOAs can't arrest people. Karen blinked. But he's refusing to comply with neighborhood business code. The shorter cop walked over to me. Sir, do you have proof this land belongs to you? I handed over the papers without saying a word. The cop reviewed them, nodded, then turned back toward Karen. And what he said next made the whole neighborhood go silent. Ma'am, you're the one trespassing. This land isn't under HOA jurisdiction. Karen's face dropped. What? No, that can't be. I checked the registry myself. No, you didn't, I said calmly. Because if you had, you'd know this lot was grandfathered out of HOA zoning 20 years ago. I bought it from the original owner, the same man who sued the HOA for trying to take it by force. And won. That was the first time Karen actually shut up. But the damage was already done. Everyone had heard. Cameras had caught her fake citation, her lies, her entitlement. And I wasn't done yet. Karen stepped back, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to snatch the fake citation off my trailer door. Too late. One of the neighbors had already taken a close-up photo. This is going online, he whispered to his wife, both of them trying not to laugh. The officers didn't even bother hiding their smirks anymore. Ma'am, the shorter officer said, impersonating a legal authority, even within an HOA, can carry serious consequences. Did you print this notice yourself? Karen's voice cracked. No, I mean, yes, but it's standard HOA format. We do this all the time. The taller officer raised an eyebrow. You do this all the time? She paused, realizing what she just confessed to. The silence stretched thick as syrup. Finally, I broke it. I suggest you stop while you're behind, Karen, before this becomes criminal. For a moment, I thought she might run, but instead she doubled down. You're not even allowed to run a business out here. Mobile offices are a zoning violation. I'm calling the real HOA board. They'll have your trailer removed. I sighed and turned to the officers. You mind sticking around for a minute? They nodded. I walked into my trailer and came back with a file folder. Not just land ownership papers, but permits, zoning exceptions, and a signed waiver from the county, allowing me to operate a mobile business unit on this very property. I handed it all over without a word. The cops flipped through the pages slowly, then looked at Karen. He's not violating anything, ma'am. Karen's jaw tightened. This isn't over, she hissed. I chuckled. You're right. It's just getting started. Because then came twist number 2. I turned to the gathering crowd. Since she wants to talk about zoning and enforcement, maybe it's time I let everyone know something important. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my retired federal badge. Before I started this business, I was a federal judge for 18 years. I oversaw zoning, property disputes, and HOA abuse cases all across the state. Karen's face drained of color. You're lying. The tall cop laughed. No, he's not. I recognize that name. You threw out half the fake fines issued by HOAs in this county last decade. A gasp rolled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Oh my God. He's the one who crushed Lakeview HOA in 2017. That did it." Karen's face went pale. She turned around, tried to speed walk toward her golf cart, but the shorter cop called out, "Hold up. We're not done with you yet." Karen froze, because now it was time to turn the table completely. The officer slowly walked toward Karen, hand resting lightly near his belt, not threatening, just serious. "We need to talk about that citation you put on his door. You said it was official HOA business, right?" Karen didn't answer. "Because that piece of paper had a seal that doesn't exist. And that's impersonation. You also threatened legal action with no authority and tried to incite a false arrest." Karen's voice came out in a whisper. "It was just a warning." "No, ma'am," the officer cut in, firm now. "Warnings don't come with fake law enforcement. Logos and words like eviction and criminal liability. That's intimidation and fraud." People had their phones up. Dozens of them. This wasn't just a local squabble anymore. It was turning into a viral showdown. Karen suddenly pointed at me like a child tattling. "He set me up. He knew what he was doing. He wanted to embarrass me." I stepped forward, calm as ever. "I wanted to open my office and mind my business. You're the one who stormed onto my land, printed a fake notice called 911, and tried to throw your fake power around." A woman from the crowd yelled, "She did the same thing to my nephew last year. He was just mowing the lawn." The crowd murmured louder now. People remembered. People had stories. Karen wasn't just a one-time problem. She was a pattern. The officer looked at her seriously. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to take a formal statement from you. And depending on what our report finds, you might be facing charges." Karen's voice cracked. "But I am on the board. And this land isn't under your HOA," I said flatly. "It never was." She turned to me one last time, desperation in her eyes. "Why didn't you just tell me who you were?" I stared at her. "Because I don't need to flash my past to prove I belong here. I earned this land. I earned this peace. You tried to take it just because you thought I was weak. Or quiet. Or alone." She was silent. And then came the moment that sealed it all. The taller officer pulled out his notepad. "What's your full name, ma'am?" Karen's lips quivered. "Karen Delaney." He nodded. "All right. I'll be including today's events in a report to the county, along with your name, photo, and that fake citation. You might want to talk to a real lawyer before printing anything again." Karen didn't say a word. She just walked to her cart and drove off, eyes burning holes in the road. But it wasn't over yet, because what none of them knew, not even the cops, was that I had security footage. Crystal clear, high quality, with audio, and I was about to upload it. That night after the chaos settled, I sat on the porch of my trailer with my wife beside me. She was quiet, holding my hand, eyes still wide from everything that had happened. I pulled out my phone, opened the app linked to my security cameras, and replayed the entire scene, from Karen's arrival to her screaming at the officers. Every word, every threat, every lie, it was all there. I didn't smile, not yet. I knew what this meant. Karen hadn't just humiliated herself, she had crossed legal lines, and I wasn't going to let her sneak away like she always did. By morning, I uploaded the footage to a private video platform with a timestamp and a full transcript. Then I sent it to my lawyer, who I hadn't needed to call in years. "You sure you want to file formal charges?" he asked me on the phone. She impersonated an authority, issued a fake legal notice, tried to provoke a false arrest, and trespassed, I replied. "I think it's time." He agreed. But before I even hit the courthouse, something unexpected happened. The video leaked. Someone from the crowd had recorded the incident too, and they had already uploaded it to a neighborhood Facebook group. It didn't stay local for long. Within 6 hours, it was on TikTok, Reddit, even local news. The title? HOA Karen tries to evict ex-federal judge, gets exposed on camera. The comments were brutal. "This is why people hate HOAs." Bro was calm the whole time. That's judge energy. Karen really tried to cosplay as the law and got smacked by the actual law. And then came the biggest shock of all. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered, expecting it to be a reporter. But it wasn't. It was a county official. And he sounded serious. "Sir, we've seen the footage. Karen Delaney's actions may have violated several ordinances. This isn't the first complaint we've received, but it's the first time. We've had clear evidence. I leaned forward. So what happens now? There will be an official investigation into Lake Ranch HOA leadership, he said, and we'd like your help. I didn't say anything for a second. I just looked at my wife. She nodded slowly, because the truth was I didn't just want revenge. I wanted change. And this was the start. Over the next few days, things moved faster than I expected. Karen disappeared from the neighborhood, at least in public. No one saw her walking her dog anymore. No clipboard. No yelling at parked cars. No fake citations on garden sheds. It was like she vanished into her beige-walled house and locked the curtains tight. But the world outside? Oh, it was on fire. The county launched a formal inquiry into Lake Ranch HOA's practices. Turns out Karen wasn't just a concerned resident. She had been acting as the self-appointed enforcement officer for over 5 years. Without ever being voted in. No board position. No legal power. Just a loudmouth, a printer, and a mean streak. And guess what? Half the homeowners thought she was the HOA. Because she made herself look official, she bullied quietly. One-on-one, behind closed doors. Until now. With my video out, people started coming forward. A single mom shared how Karen threatened to call child services because her kids left a bike outside. An elderly veteran said she put a fake fire code warning on his porch swing. Even the mailman came forward. Apparently Karen tried to report him for delivering mail too loudly. It was ridiculous. But now it was evidence. I was invited to a community meeting the following Saturday. Not just invited, asked to speak. My wife was nervous about it, but I wasn't. I had spoken in federal courtrooms. This was a neighborhood gazebo. When I stepped up, people clapped, not loud, but enough to know they were done being afraid. I didn't talk long. I'm not here because I wanted a fight, I said. I just wanted peace. But sometimes peace needs to be defended. Karen crossed lines, legal ones, personal ones. But the real failure was silence. Everyone here knew something was wrong. But no one spoke up. Until now. I paused. That stops today. Someone shouted, "Run for HOA president." The crowd laughed, but it wasn't a joke. Later that night, I got a knock on my trailer door. It was the current board president, a quiet man named Rick, who looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "She made our lives hell," he said. "We couldn't stop her. She just took over. But with your help, we're pressing charges. Real ones." I nodded. "Good." Then he looked at me seriously. "We need a new board. Clean start. Would you consider—" "No," I cut him off with a smile. "I didn't buy this land to run the neighborhood. I bought it to run away from it." He laughed. But then he handed me a sealed envelope. "She was served today. Thought you should know." I opened it. Inside was a legal notice. Karen Delaney facing charges of trespassing, falsifying legal documents, and impersonating a public official. But that wasn't the part that got me. Attached was a handwritten apology letter, scrawled in shaky, angry cursive. "I didn't know who you were. If I had, I would have acted differently." I read it twice, then laughed softly, because that one sentence told the whole truth. She didn't respect people. She only respected power. And now, she had none left. A week later, the neighborhood looked different. Not just the mood, but the air. Lighter. Doors were open. Kids were playing again without being shushed. People smiled when they passed my lot. Some waved. Others just gave me a respectful nod. No one mentioned Karen, but her empty house stood there like a museum of arrogance. Curtains drawn, porch dusty, a faded HOA authorized vehicle-only sign still rusting on her garage wall. Word was she'd been ordered to step down from all HOA activity, permanently. She was also facing a county fine and a possible restraining order from 3 neighbors. Her reign of petty terror was officially over. But the final twist? It came in the mail. A certified envelope delivered with a signature from a real estate attorney. Inside were copies of documents. Not from Karen, but about Karen. Turns out the property line had shifted years ago due to a county zoning update. And that little patch of land she always stood on when she yelled at neighbors, it wasn't HOA property. It wasn't hers. It was mine. By half a meter. She had spent 5 years screaming from my land. I couldn't help it. I laughed for a solid minute. That night I told my wife, We sat by the fire pit outside our trailer, sipping coffee under the stars, no Karen in sight. She looked at me, grinning. "So what now?" she asked. "You going to install a fence?" I shook my head. "No, I'm going to install a bench." She raised an eyebrow. I smiled, with a little sign on it, "Reserved for HOA Karens who forgot to read property lines." We both laughed until our stomachs hurt. But deep down I knew it wasn't just about Karen. It was about every person who ever got silenced by someone louder. Every immigrant, every vet, every single mom who was told they didn't belong. So I posted a photo of the bench online with one line: "I didn't fight for this country just to be told I can't sit on my own land." It went viral overnight. Because this wasn't just a story about an HOA Karen. It was a story about freedom. And sometimes freedom begins with one man saying, "No, not today." 2 days before I put up the bench, I got one last visit I didn't expect. A black SUV pulled up slowly near my trailer. Not a neighbor's car. Not county. Tinted windows. Clean rims. Out stepped a woman in a blazer, calm, confident, carrying a slim leather folder. She walked up, introduced herself with a quiet smile. "I represent a class action law group," she said. "We've been tracking HOA abuse cases across the state. Your situation? It just sparked over 70 new filings." I blinked. "You're saying Karen started something bigger?" "She lit the match," the woman said, "but you handed the world a torch." She sat down across from me and opened her folder. Inside were affidavits, complaints, signed statements from people I'd never met, names from 3 counties over. Some were elderly. Some were immigrants. A few were vets like me. All of them silenced by HOA abuse. Until my video showed up. "You inspired them," she said. "People are tired of being threatened for what flowers they plant or where they park. Tired of these little dictators in sun hats with clipboards. You gave them a voice." My throat tightened. I'd fought court battles before, but those were black and white. Legal and procedural. This was personal. This was about dignity. The kind of quiet bullying that never made headlines until now. "I'm not a hero," I muttered. She smiled. "Maybe not. But you're a spark." Before she left, she handed me a card. "If you ever want to testify in the bigger suit, we could use someone like you." I tucked the card in my pocket, unsure if I'd ever call. But deep down I knew I would. Because Karen wasn't just one woman. She was a system. One that preyed on fear, silence, and fake authority. And now it was falling apart. The next morning, a local news van showed up outside my lot. The reporter politely asked if they could film the area. They wanted to do a segment titled, "The HOA Judge Who Took His Land Back." I let them. Because sometimes the best way to fight back is to let the truth echo. The morning the bench went up, the sky was quiet. No sirens, no shouting. No HOA patrols creeping around on golf carts. Just birds, breeze, and the sound of the wooden planks locking into place. I bolted the sign in myself. It was small, simple, no drama. Reserved for HOA Karens who forgot to read property lines. It wasn't about pettiness. It was about poetry. About closure. By noon, the bench had already made the rounds on social media. Locals started visiting just to take pictures with it. Some laughed. Others sat quietly, just taking it in. A young dad brought his son by. "This is the spot," he whispered, "where that lady used to yell at everyone." His son asked, "Why doesn't she yell anymore?" The dad grinned. "Because someone told her she couldn't." Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, my wife brought out 2 mugs of tea and joined me on that same bench. We watched the last light fade over the land that had almost been stolen, not by guns or lawyers, but by lies and paper threats. "I still can't believe it," she said softly. I nodded. Me neither. Not that she got exposed. That it took so long. She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do you regret getting involved?" I looked at her, then at the land, the office we built, the neighbors who finally walked free, the family across the street putting up decorations without fear, and I said the truth. No, I regret not doing it sooner. Because in the end, it wasn't just about Karen, or HOAs, or fake notices taped to doors. It was about standing your ground when no one else will. It was about showing the quiet ones that they can fight back. It was about reminding everyone that land isn't just dirt, it's dignity. So when people ask me now, what happened with that HOA Karen, I just smile and say, she called the cops to scare me off my own land. But I built a bench where she used to scream. And let me tell you something. It's the most peaceful seat in town.